Quick question, everyone in here is a podcast, right? And everyone's goal is to promote their audience, their viewership, things of that nature. We're on the same page to make sure that I want to share the stuff you guys can implement right away instead of anything that's like a little bit too advanced, right? Because when I first started with ads, similar to what Tony was mentioning, it's a little scary. It's funny because we spend money. You know, you go get a Starbucks, you go get some clothes at the store. You spend money on all types of things that you feel comfortable spending money on. But there's a funny thing that happens when you go to spend it on ads. You start measuring it and you get really, really afraid. And typically what happens is you're like, that money's going out, but I didn't receive something right away, right? Like when you typically buy a coffee or a shirt or something like that, you've actually like physically have the thing in your hand. Instead, this is almost a trust game, right? So my very first piece of advice, if you're serious about growing the audience and your influence, you need to start training your advertising muscle, okay? What that means is instead of going into it thinking that you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars, which is what we conveniently do to convince ourselves not to take action, the flip side to that is start spending $1 a day. And if you need to, just commit to 7 days. We can all afford $7, hopefully, all right? Okay, so that's the first thing is you gotta build your muscles. So you have to go in and just commit to yourself, you're gonna spend $1 a day. Once you do that, the next thing you wanna do is you need to know who you want to attract. How many people in here know exactly who they wanna attract? Exactly. Okay, and then who in here doesn't know yet? Okay, everyone knows, perfect. So, end of presentation, guys. So here's what you want to do. So if you're one of those people like me when I first started and you don't know who to go after, you can actually use ads to figure it out, okay? So here's what you do. If you're looking for your audience, spending $1 a day, I highly recommend that you record with video all of your podcasts, okay? That's step number one, use video. If you only use images, you're not gonna be able to use all the capabilities that are available to you if you just use images, okay? And I'll tell you why in a second. So what you wanna do is you wanna film everything you're doing and you wanna test what they call an ad hook, okay? And you wanna figure out who responds the best and to what. For example, let's say you're in the fitness space, that's the space that I originally came from, and you're like, I don't know if I do fitness, I could help people get in shape, but I have no idea who's actually gonna buy my stuff. What I would do is you create 4 videos, okay? And in the beginning of the video, you switch the ad hook. So maybe you say, attention Utah moms looking to lose weight, right? Attention single dads looking to get back in the dating world. Attention, and you test out 4 different audiences, and you almost want to do it scientifically. So I typically, I'm old school. I like to write on pen and paper. I'll actually write down what I'm testing and then go back and see what are the results. Now, once you do that, the way you figure out who the audience is inside of Facebook, you can actually measure and see how many people watched your videos for 5 seconds, 25%, 50%, 75%, 100%, okay? And your goal is to be able to look in the platform and see which one of those videos are getting me the most watch through rates, people that are watching 50, 75, 100%, and the most clicks, the most engagement, right? Then what you can do, once you figure that out, is you then create an audience, a lookalike audience of those people. So inside of Facebook, you can create a lookalike audience of the people who watched and engaged with your video podcast, okay? Now this is a huge advantage because what this does is, if you're someone who tends to overthink things, then just use data to give you the advice or the information that you need. Lean on the data. If the data says women between 35 to 55 are buying all your stuff or watching all your stuff or clicking on it, don't try to outsmart it, right? Whoever is responding to it, lean into it, right? That's how you're gonna get the success. So lean into it. So once you create the videos, the next thing you wanna do is you figure out your audience. You need to know exactly what makes them act, okay? This is very important. So here's like a quick pop quiz. What causes people to act, emotion or logic? Emotion, right? What do we typically do when you first make your rounds of ads? Do we tend to lean towards emotion or logic when you make them? Logic. It's kind of funny, right? We all inherently know emotions is what makes us move, but when we create ads, we do logical. For example, if you're like, instead of saying, my fitness program will help you, live longer and spend more time with your kids and you could have a more higher quality of life and you don't have to feel so embarrassed about how you look and feel, That would be the emotional side. Logical people say, I can help you eat enough protein, lift weights, and drink water. Which one sounds more exciting, right? Which plan? The emotional one, right? So what you want to do is base most of your Facebook advertising targeting emotion. So the thing you need to know is, what emotion do I need my audience to feel in order to act? That's how you get the result. That's like the secret sauce. And the funny thing is, we all know those emotions, but we're typically afraid to use them, right, in the advertising, because advertising demands a certain mindset, especially if you put your face on the camera. Is anyone in here nervous to put their face on the camera or doesn't like it? Okay, quick question. Why? Why don't you like it?
I hate the way.
Okay. Okay, so you don't like the way you sound?
You'll be judged.
You'll be judged, right? And we don't typically feel that comfortable being judged that way, right? But one thing that you're gonna wanna get over, is that Todd back there? Yeah. Todd, how you doing? So one thing you're gonna wanna get over is the fact that if you truly want, so you start your podcast probably to change people's lives or influence them in some way, right? For the audience, am I on the right page? Okay, so this is almost something that when I train salespeople what to say, right? When they're like, I'm afraid to go out there and sell, really it's because they're thinking too much about themselves. Make sense? Since they're thinking about themselves, you can't truly help the other person. It's almost impossible if you're like, how can I help this person that's right in front of me? It's almost impossible to think about you because you think about them. Make sense? So that's what you want to really focus on, is how do you create stuff that resonates with the audience and just not think about yourself, right? That's what's going to really help with the advertising. Okay, so once you know emotionally what's going to make them act, then you need to have an offer. You got to have a strong offer. Okay, so anyone throw it out there. Why should I listen to your podcast? Does anyone have a reason why I should listen to it?
Because it's awesome.
Okay, according to who?
Me.
Okay, so it's awesome. What else? What else?
Education.
Education. Okay, what else? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I go back to like when Joe Rogan started. I had all teenage boys at the time, right? So they all thought they were getting the inside scoop.
Yep.
And so was like 2/3 of the planet. Right?
Yep.
So, but one of the brothers would say, "Oh yeah, where'd you hear that?" "Oh, I heard it on Rogan." He's like, "Bro, you got the inside track." Because the one's like, "Oh," along with the other 3 million people. That heard that.
Yep.
But they felt like they were getting the inside scoop. Like,
Yep.
I'm the only one that knows this, and
you don't, right? And that's okay. So that proves the point. It's about the offer, right? People don't act if it's not good enough. So typically what people say is like, hey, download my podcast. That's it. It ends there. Or, hey, you should listen to my stuff. All right. Why? A good drill when you're creating your marketing messaging is what I like to call negative visualization. I always have a hard time saying that word. Visualization, okay? What that basically means is I want you to be as negative as possible, and stay with me now, because I'm going somewhere. Be as negative as possible and pretend the person you're talking to absolutely does not want to hear from you and has no desire to learn from you or to be educated or to be entertained or to be any of those.
We're talking to our kids?
Yes, we're talking. That's what I meant. See, so even your kids can teach you how to market better, right? So what you want to do is you want to focus on that, because what that'll help you do is you have to go, if I needed to convince someone who really does not want to hear me, who doesn't want to look at me on Facebook, who doesn't want to read my stuff, they've got way other more important things to do in their day, what would I have to say in order for them to act, okay? This takes real thought. If you focus on this, you'll start to see the results that you want, right? Because if you do not focus on this, you're gonna sound like everybody else, right? And if you wanna stand out, one of the things I think about when it comes to meta, we're all doing this, right? Scrolling, clicking, scrolling, clicking. So we're basically trained to it's almost the equivalent of if you go to, I don't even know if they still have it, a swap meet, right? You go to a swap meet or you go to a market, you're typically walking, you're not paying attention. You've got seconds to get their attention, right? And that's it. That's all you have. So one of the things I like to train people, especially when they do their marketing messaging, is to think, don't be, this word has a negative connotation, but I think it's necessary. Don't be entitled to someone's attention. We do not deserve anyone's attention. Our job is to convince them that they want to pay attention to what we're doing. That'll also switch how you create things, right? And as you can see, I'm spending a lot of time on typically when people talk about meta, they like to talk about the targeting and kind of all the technology, all the hacks, right? But in my opinion, the most important part about meta ads and advertising in general is what you're saying. And is it well thought out, right? So if you want to know how crazy this sounds, I'll share this. It's almost embarrassing to share. But when I very, very first started running ads for my personal training company, this was like 15 years ago, I quickly realized when I first started, I thought I was going to sell athletes because I was an athlete in college. So I was like, yeah, I want to train athletes and they'll probably pay. But very quickly, I figured out none of them wanted to buy. And even if they did, they didn't have any money, right? And being hard-headed, I was trying to sell that group because the key letter word is I wanted to sell that, not what do the people want. But I had this other subset of women who were pounding down my door to basically get training, to get in shape, right? So what I basically did was, I was like, wow, this is interesting. So it's not who I thought was going to respond to my stuff. It's actually the opposite. What do I do? So I literally went to Walmart and bought every women's health magazine. And the person at the cashier register must have thought I was crazy. I had a stack like this, and I just looked through every single magazine. What are they talking about? What are they saying? Because I'm leveraging their knowledge, their information, right? And so I just studied it to figure out what do I need to say, how do I need to say it, when do I need to say it to get the result that I want, right? Then, once I figured that out, I started putting those in my ads immediately. I started getting the exact type of person that wanted this, and they were responding, and of course the sales were coming in. And that's the exciting part, right? When you run the ads is you want to get an ROI. So I share that story with you for you to really think about. It takes some effort to research who you're going after, but it's an investment. Because if you invest the time now to understand the psychology of that person, you'll reap the rewards later. And when I say I went in depth, I went to the point where I typically knew around 44 years old was one segment that always bought, and 49 on women. Why do you think that is? Why do you think women at 49 were always buying my stuff? Because they don't want to see the big 5 on their age. Maybe that too. At least that's what I try to tell myself. I don't know if it's true. So, yeah, they don't want to see the big 5 by their name. They're like, it's 49. Magically, somehow, it all goes downhill when I turn 50, right? I started to understand that from reading the magazines, hearing what they're saying. I was like, okay, that shows you the power of understanding the audience, right? And taking the time to create those messages. So here's a formula that I really want you to think about when you create your ads, okay? So part 1, ad hook, okay? What is your ad hook? Does everyone here know what that is? Good, perfect. I can't wait to see these powerful ads on the internet. Okay, so ad hook, the more, you can use different angles, right? Calling out the audience, you can use the shock factor, you can use comparison, right? Big comparison, big contrast. 5 secrets people don't want you to know, right? You can use topics where your ad hook is basically implying that there's something that you've never heard of. Everyone thinks you should run ads like this, but there's a new way that rich people are running ads. Go ahead and click the link, you know what I mean? Like, so that's pretty much how you imply like knowledge that they think they believe, but you give them something else. So ad hook, very important. The reason why it's important, if you're doing podcasts, you guys are content creators, right? And you guys all want more views, right? More listens, more downloads. Well, if you want more of that and you have a very poor hook or uninspiring hook or something that doesn't get these people to move, the good content that you created never gets consumed, right? So you think of the YouTuber like Mr. Beast, he spends 80 to 90% of his time on the thumbnail of his YouTube channel and his ad hooks. Because most of you guys have content that's already good enough. It's valuable to the audience, right? And so when people think like your content's not good or, oh man, that person must have a lot of downloads because somehow they're smarter than me when it comes to the content. That's usually the big trap. You know why? I fell for that. When I learned marketing, I went to a conference and at the time I was naive, I was younger, and I didn't know. So I'm with all these successful entrepreneurs and they're talking about their success with selling books, right? And I learned all this marketing stuff and I asked them, I said, how did you become a New York Times bestseller? And they said, oh, well, I marketed it. The entire time prior to that, I thought you just wrote a really good book and it was so good. You were such a good writer that's how you became a New York Times bestseller. But that's not the case at all, right? So that's why the importance of ad hook makes all the difference in the world. The second piece is you have to have an education piece in your ad, right? So this should be the part where you guys have a good time with, which is educating them or entertaining them in some capacity, okay? This could be, the 5 reasons why people do this, and then you go into because, and you give them the actual information. What this does is it positions you as the expert of what you're talking about, or the leader of what you're talking about, so then people go, this is the logical part, right? The emotion is the ad hook. The content is the logical part where people can go, oh, this person knows what they're talking about, right? Then the final piece is the call to action. This is usually what gets people forget this part all the time. You want people to act, tell them to, right? And with the call to action, put in like little parentheses, you should always have an urgency to it, a reason to it. I'm doing this special podcast and this is only gonna be available for 7 days, or I've got this interview with this other podcaster, it's only available for this, or make sense? You gotta create urgency, scarcity, reasons for them to do it. If you don't do that, they won't act. Most people are procrastinators, right? It's easier to not make a decision because most of us are afraid to make the wrong decision than it is to just act, right? So that's why you gotta have urgency and you have to have reasoning for that. Now, when you create your ads, when you do the video, here's what you wanna do when you're building what I like to call a content funnel, okay? So your first video that you create, I typically recommend you have, so write this down because this is important. So you have top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel, okay? Top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. Exactly. Tofu, mofu, bofu. Exactly. And what these are, do you guys know what these mean? Top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel? Okay, so top of funnel means someone that's never heard of you, okay? That's someone who's never heard of you. Then you've got middle of funnel, someone who's kind of heard of you, right? So those are people that might watch a video or like your post or comment on something, haven't taken a big action of commitment yet. And then you've got bottom of funnel. These are people that are subscribed, people that are showing heavy action, always commenting on your stuff. They're part of your email list. They're on your website. Now, here's what you want to do. Here's the big mistake that everyone makes when it comes to paid advertising. That's the most expensive and most ineffective. They don't create a funnel, okay? They only go after top of funnel. So they're like, I need new people to subscribe to me or buy from me or take an action from me. So they run all their ads to strangers. And then when it doesn't work, they just run more ads to more strangers who don't know them. Instead of doing it just like in real life as human beings, if you look at the internet, it's no different than in person. It's just a leveraged form. You wouldn't just go, if I wanted to get married, I wouldn't just go on 1,000 first dates and never call any of them back and then go, man, I can't seem to get a wife. There must be something wrong with me. Meanwhile, half those people were probably interested, but I never called them, right? That's what I mean by top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel. If you want them to marry you, subscribe to you, buy from you, follow up, right? Follow up. So you have to have content. And when you create your ads, you have to, so when you think about in those 3 lanes, think of when you make your ads, you have to speak at that stage. Do you guys get what I mean by that? So top of funnel is like, if I don't know you, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm Greg, how you doing? Nice to meet you. What do you do? How's your day going? What are you doing? That's top of funnel. But I wouldn't say that again if I already knew you. I wouldn't talk in that manner. Like, what do you do for a living? Well, we've already talked for 3, 4, or 5 other times. So why would I ask that again? Make sense? So speak to them where they're at. So top of funnel is like, if they're a complete stranger, make your messaging talking to a complete stranger. Middle funnel, talk to them like they've seen you before, but haven't made a decision to do something yet. And then bottom of funnel, these are like your number 1 supporters. You talk to them a little bit different. It's like your best friend on the phone. Make sense? So when you're doing these ads, you want to focus on having a funnel when you're running these ads, and you want them ideally all the time. You want to make a marketing machine, right? Because most of you guys just want to do podcasting. You didn't sign up to be like, yeah, I want to be the number 1 advertisers in the world, right? That's not what you signed up for. You want to share your message. So do yourself a favor and make a marketing machine. Create top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom of funnel. Come up with a budget that you feel that you can afford. And it doesn't have to be huge. Start small, just do anything. And then let it run. What you'll find is over time, it compounds. It becomes easier and easier to get the results that you're looking for versus the constant struggle of you make content, no one listens, maybe I'll just boost an ad. Well, that didn't do anything immediately, so I won't do that anymore. Then you make more content. Then you talk to your friend and you say, I don't know what's wrong with me. My content's not being listened to. I don't know if this is for me. I give up. I'm going to try something else. Make sense? Instead, create a marketing machine that can help you focus on what you're great at and let the technology do all the promotions. The way I like to explain advertising is it's almost like you're hiring a bunch of people that have your flyers and they're just walking out, handing them out all day, right? That's basically what internet marketing is. You're like paying Facebook or Meta or Instagram or YouTube or whoever you're paying to basically just distribute this all day. And then if you have good ads and you have it created in a systematic way, I don't like to make guarantees, but it's very close. As long as you got something good, this can work for you versus you feeling like a slave to it. That makes sense, right? And you can even have fun with this. So a lot of times people are concerned about doing marketing because they don't want to seem like, number one, there's this belief that somehow you're a better person if everything happens organically. Oh yeah, I grew my audience organically. I didn't pay for any. Like that's okay. That's great. But that doesn't mean you're a better person or anything. Maybe you found a way to do it. But what holds most people back, because that's like the 1%. The 1% is going to be able to just build their audience because of the timing that they started their podcast, right? Instagram influencers, people that are big on TikTok, a lot of times it's not because they're that good, it's because they were first, and that's it. But when things get more competitive, you need to be okay with being able to do it not organically. Doesn't mean that, I think Tony mentioned, it's not cheating, right? It's not cheating. All it is basically saying like, you believe in what you're doing so well, you're willing to create a marketing machine to get in front of the people that need to see it, and you're gonna be better than everyone else that's in your space. Does that make sense? So don't fall in love with the idea of like, yeah, I just built it organically, and it's because I have found that holds certain people back. I had a client maybe 9 years ago, 10 years ago, they had 1 million followers, right, on Facebook and Instagram. And they always would say, we built this organically, almost in an arrogant way. We don't need paid advertising. And most of their revenue was generated off of display ads. So they had blogs and they would make money based off traffic when you could actually get free traffic from Facebook, right? 9 years later, their audience is exactly the same size, and now they're getting demolished by their competitors because they're using ads. And in fact, without relaying too much of the story, but someone within that group branched off and became their competitor. Now they have this huge issue because the person that branched off actually did the advice I said 9 years ago, and they're crushing them, right? And so do not fall in love with the idea if you've got to do organic or it makes you less than or it makes you less talented, right? Invest in yourself. You hear the phrase invest in yourself, that's one of the things that you got to focus on is if you believe in what you're doing, put a little money behind it, right? Bet on yourself. And it is scary. Like I said, how I started the presentation, I said most people, when it comes to buying stuff, they got no problem spending a couple $100s, on products or things that they can take home. But when it comes to running those ads, it makes you sweat at night, right? And I get it, but just push through anyways. That's why I said build your muscle, start spending $1 per day. That is literally it. You're not gonna go under, okay, spending $1 a day, but what you will is the opportunity to understand what you can do with these ads and the results that you can get. And trust me, when you start seeing the results, you'll be happy you did it. Never had a client that I told, just spend the money, build a system, stay consistent, 12 months later where they're like, man, I'm really sad that I did that. Really sad that I spent all that money to learn how to get customers on, auto repeat. Never heard that, right? But what most people do is they, just like fitness, I come from the fitness space, so I know this, like the back of my hand. They want to lose weight. They want to build muscle. And they keep doing the golden sin. Start and stop. Start and stop. So they never get anywhere. And you're always starting at the hardest place 4 times a year. You do it for 3 months, you quit. You put a little weight on, I need to get back in the gym. You start again, but you're a little bit behind. Then you quit after, and you just keep doing that over and over again, and you're always starting at the hardest spot. Instead of just doing it where it's more seamless, where you gain momentum, not doing too much in the beginning so you burn yourself out. You just progressively build up. It's like telling someone, you wouldn't go just like run a marathon with no training. But that's what people sometimes try to do. If I convince them to run ads, oh, I'm gonna go all in, I'm gonna spend X amount of dollars, I'm gonna do this. They burn themselves out too quick because that's not what it's about. It's about longevity. I sell personally, so I've got my marketing agency, Fiture Marketing, and my joke when I tell people what I sell the unsexy. I don't have a magic bullet, right? I don't have a secret. What I have is consistency, and I know it works. And when you do it long-term, it does work. Does that make sense? So view your business and view your podcast, especially when you're doing advertising, long-term. Just say, I'm going to do this for at least 6 months before you make any decision. And never let your emotions drive the decision when you're running the ads. Because here's something that'll happen when you run ads. Maybe you have a couple of good days, and then you have one bad day, you panic, and you want to just turn them off, or these aren't working, or this whole strategy doesn't work when it's just one bad day, right? It's just like working out. Maybe you slept bad the day before, had a bad workout, you just come back the next day. But you don't just give up, right? So that's what you want to do with your advertising. Now, what I want to do is kind of open it up for questions specifically with your guys' podcast to see where I can help give you some advice. So who has any questions in here, or did I teach everything that's necessary for you to successfully move forward without me? Yes.
Podcasts, you can pay for ads like on Facebook?
Yes.
Okay, and then I heard somebody say that if you start paying, then you're just always gonna have to pay because the algorithm will, if you don't advertise anymore or pay,
Yeah.
you're going to get boosted or whatever. That's what I've heard.
You know, I hear stuff like that all the time, but I don't know if I buy it.
I don't know.
No, and I'm not blaming you. I'm saying I hear this a lot, usually from, always think of where you're getting your advice from too. Usually that advice is pushed by people who are pushing organic strategies. Or if their organic strategies aren't working and you run ads, they'll blame the ads versus their own performance. But I haven't seen that to be the case. In fact, you can run campaigns that are like engagement campaigns, that the objective is to get more people to like, comment, and share. And that actually could help boost your other posts, right? So your other organic stuff. So I don't know where they get that information from, but I don't think it's true. I mean, I haven't seen it. And I'm running a lot of ads. So what else? Good question, by the way. Yes.
Have you had experience growing podcasts then at your agency?
You know what? We haven't specifically worked with podcasters, so this is a little bit different. But what I can tell you is we've helped grow accounts in different industries.
Can you give us like examples of success stories?
Yeah. So, like, what would you like to hear? What?
I don't know. I feel like I'm like in the beginning. I'm on episode, what am I on? Is it 16?
Okay.
So I started in December and I'm doing social media, LinkedIn and Instagram.
Okay.
And I actually noticed up until this week that my numbers have kind of just stagnated.
Okay.
But I had one of my business mentors come on last week and my numbers doubled.
Yeah.
So I know it's kind of like,
Well, let me ask you this: what did you learn from that?
well, I cried in that episode.
Okay. What did we discuss earlier?
Yeah, I did.
Interesting.
She was my first mentor when I started my business.
Yeah.
It's like, keep going.
Yep.
Because I'm a woman
Sure.
in Utah. No one's telling me to work.
Yep.
No one's telling me to do or live my dream.
Yep.
And she was like the first person to be like, I did it, now you can do it.
Yep.
And so this all came out during that episode, and I don't know, it's just hard because it's like I'm getting emotional, I'm putting myself out there, but I've kind of had to stop looking at numbers.
Yeah.
Like, can't look at that every day because it's just like, but I do believe that ads will help.
Yeah.
I am working with a digital marketing consultant.
Okay. Okay.
And so he's kind of helping me with that.
Okay.
More with organic. And then he suggested the same thing, to start doing a couple,
Yeah.
just with a few dollars and just kind of
See what happens. Yeah.
and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's, and then I get in my head too, because then there's the whole SEO.
Yep.
situation. So now I'm telling it, like I sent him all my website copy that I was planning on using, and I'm like, maybe this could help you kind of figure out like what keywords we can use.
Yep.
So yeah, it's kind of just like
Well, and
all such.
no, I get it. And I don't want to start crying over here neither. You know, I mean, you get me emotional. You know, I think here's the thing. So number one, do not put your self-worth or value in the numbers. Right? You are not the numbers. All the numbers is basically just telling you. It's just feedback. What do people like? What don't they like? The irony on what you told me, right? The one that got you the most views was the one where you're probably the most yourself. And that's typically what tends to happen when people create their content is they think they need to turn into someone else, or they see another successful podcaster and they try to be like them. And the irony is that's how you do worse. That's how your messages don't hit, right? That's how the numbers don't get to where you want them to be. It's because humans are smart enough to figure out, like, if you're putting on an act, or if you're kind of like being yourself, or maybe you're half of yourself, what I always recommend is go all in, right? Be 100% yourself. Don't look at the numbers as your personal value. Look at the numbers just as a guiding point. And then success stories, like probably the best success story we had wasn't podcast, it was just an Instagram account, but like here's a strategy that works really well if you are willing to do outreach, okay? If you find another Instagram account or whatever platform you're using, and they have a following that you think would like your stuff and it's not competing, you reach out to them and you say, hey, I'd like to do a giveaway. I think your followers would love what I have, and whatever that is, right? And then you basically convince them to go, let's do the giveaway. You post it on your page. In order to enter the giveaway, they have to follow my page. And then in exchange, I'll give someone something valued at whatever dollar amount, right? That success story, so the highest I've seen, 80,000 followers in one day, okay? One day. So here's a hack. If you want to grow followers quickly, this is another way to do it. This is where you start getting like more advanced, so I don't want to be saying all these advanced stuff, but here's a tactic you can use. If you committed to that every day, and you say, I'm going to reach out 5 to 10 times a day to a different group, I guarantee it, you're going to get 1 or 2 that go, this is great. I love to do that. And then they do it, and you'll see your results go like that. So instead of thinking you have to do it all on your own, essentially ask for help. That's all you're doing. Ask for help. Collaborate. You don't have to do it by yourself, right? And then you can run ads to all the people that follow your page. Then you run ads to them. And then that's how you start your relationship. Top of funnel, middle funnel, bottom funnel. Make sense? So that's one success story. Sometimes it's hard for me to think of like from a follower standpoint, because full transparency, most clients will hire me for sales or to get, to generate more sales and revenue, stuff like that. So, but in building an audience, that's a hack that you can do. So
I think it's hard too as podcasters because you put a lot of time into making the content really good, and then after that it's just like nothing left.
yeah.
So I think there needs to be a more fine balance with like strategy and also like making the content really good.
Here's what I would do. Find yourself an assistant, get someone to buy into your vision, okay? And then basically convince that person, I'm gonna make great content and I need you to help me get people to this. Can you reach out to these accounts each day? And if you gotta pay them. It's worth it, right? Because one account, you get 80,000 followers, I think that's worth it, right? And so don't try to do it all on your own. So if you have the wherewithal to get some help when it comes to like an assistant or someone on your team that can help you kind of do these manual things, I highly recommend that you invest in it. And view yourself as a real business. That's the other thing. If you're a podcaster, view this like, if you plan on taking this somewhere, view yourself as a business owner. So make business decisions. Put your mind in the mindset that you're a business owner, not because if you play small, like, yeah, I'm just a podcaster and I'm just, trying to make it, there's no energy in that. Who wants to get involved with that, right? Versus someone who's like, man, I got 10 followers, but I'm gonna get 1 million followers in a year. You wanna be a part of this or not, right? Same small, account, but one has different energy than the other. And that also helps you to push through, right? So,
when I was in really heavy growth mode, I learned a concept that was really useful. The work begins when you hit publish.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we see it the other way around, right? You hit publish, like, okay, I'm done. Something good happens.
Yeah, great point.
But the work starts.
Yes.
When you hit publish, it changed the way I view it.
That's a great point, because that's how it is you make the content, but once it's published out there, then that's when you're like, you want people to see this, listen to it. That's where the work happens. What other questions? Steph?
Okay, so I've never done ads before, so this might be, I don't want to say a dumb question, but
Yeah.
So the place that you actually run the ads is in the Meta.
Yeah.
Are there other new AI tools?
No, so you run them all through Meta Business Suite. I recommend, there's a place and a time to use the promote button inside of Instagram, but I prefer the ads manager because you can have better targeting, more layered targeting, especially if you're gonna target people who've watched a certain amount of your videos. So that's where you wanna run all those ads, is inside the...
Even though Facebook is not being used as much, especially over time, it's worse or...
Yeah, well, when I say Facebook, meaning that the ad platform, so Facebook owns Instagram. And so, sorry, good clarification. Sometimes I forget to mention that. Yeah, so Instagram and Facebook are connected. So when I say Facebook, I just mean the dashboard. It doesn't necessarily mean you're just on Facebook, yeah. Yes.
LinkedIn play in? Do you advertise there?
I mean, I personally advertise on LinkedIn, and I've run quite a bit of LinkedIn ads. So here's what you'll find. The dollar-a-day strategy won't work on there because the minimum daily spend is $10 a day. But You can find, if you're going after, let's say, a corporate audience or someone like that, a CFO or head of HR, you can reach people on LinkedIn with those ads pretty effectively. And they're pretty, sometimes Facebook's targeting when it comes to job descriptions can be a little bit not as accurate, but LinkedIn is, so.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a beast. My show, How to Be a Realtor, it didn't make top 100 until I started doing it. Like, LinkedIn is a monster. And to your point, Facebook's massively underrated. Like, it's still.
Oh, yeah.
Like, combined, I know that.
Yep.
The thing about Facebook is that there's a lot of lurkers on Facebook. They're not gonna. Like,
Yeah.
They're not gonna. But they'll see it. So Facebook is still a beast. But if it's a professional podcast, like mine is specifically for real estate agents, LinkedIn is key because I can target people that have realtor in their description. It's more expensive. Right?
Yeah, it is.
But it's absolutely.
Well, you get what you pay for, right? So, the other thing too, Facebook, he makes a great point because I usually have these conversations with clients as well. They'll say, I want to run my ads only on Instagram because nobody uses Facebook. But then when I pull up the data, most of the sales are coming from Facebook. And the reason for that is usually the 35 plus year old group who actually has money is using Facebook, right? So you can get a lot of followers, a lot of 18-year-olds and stuff, and get a lot of, what they call clout. You can get that, but if you're looking for dollars, Facebook is still a great place. Yes?
I have a question about the lookalike audience.
Yeah.
Let's say you are posting on social media, you have a little bit of traction.
Yep.
Would you do like a lookalike audience of who's already
Yes.
of your audience already?
Yes.
Or would you suggest testing new ones to not be influenced by the old ones?
No, so I would start with the lookalike of your current audience, and you only need.
Even if you've never run ads, you have organic?
Yep. So you can do that lookalike. Then what you can do is you can keep making better lookalikes. So you start with that, and then you run video ads to your lookalike audience.
Testing them like you said, right?
You would actually run the video ad towards the lookalike audience, and then the people that are watching 50, 75, and 95% of your video, then you make a lookalike of them. So then it's an even better audience. And then let's say you have something for sale, and then you target the lookalike of people who consume, and then they go to buy, then you make a lookalike of people who buy, right? So you can actually build your audience as you go to become better and better.
You can use me, Mom. I follow you.
Any other questions? I'm here, you might as well ask.
You on that lookalike.
Yeah.
I don't see that. I know. I think I lost that.
Yeah, so lookalike audience, basically you can go inside of the Facebook ad platform, and you tell it, you give it a source audience, like, these are my followers. Make an audience that looks just like them. Or if you have an email list, you can upload the email list and create a lookalike of that. My favorite way to use emails for lookalikes, if you're using email marketing softwares, is I like to make a lookalike of people who actually open the emails, right? So people who are engaging. So always make your lookalike audience based off of the actions you want people to take. So the highest value action possible. But you can start with who follows you now. Make it look like. That's where you begin. Yes?
In the podcast we did, you talked about the mistakes people made. Will you share that with everyone?
Refresh my memory on...
If you want to make a sell, you do a certain way of what you put it. I don't remember the wordage.
Well, I think if I go to mistakes...
And I'm trying to remember what it was, but you said that people won't do the right...
Oh, the objective.
Yeah,
the objective. The conversion objective. All right, so the big mistake when people run ads, if you want to sell something or get someone to become a lead, they choose the wrong conversion objective. So inside of the platform, they'll have engagement objective, traffic, reach, lead, or sales. And typically, see, this is a sales pitch by Facebook, is they almost try to influence you to do reach campaigns and say if you choose this campaign, you'll reach as many people as possible. But the problem with that is it just reaches them. So it doesn't you're not using the algorithm to your advantage. It's just saying hey, I've got this flyer. If I just did that, my reach is the whole room. Versus if I had this flyer and I want you to buy something, I would say, who would like to buy this? And someone raised their hand, I would talk to them. That's the difference between picking what conversion objective or what objective you're using. So yeah, that's probably the number one mistake. Or they hit the promote button and they want to sell something, and when you click promote, it doesn't even send them to a website, send them just to your profile. That's another common mistake that I see.
So how do you avoid
You do it all.
versus
It'll tell you. So when you go inside of Ads Manager, there is when you go to promote, it'll give you options. And you just want to make sure you pick the option you really want. So if you really want them to fill out a form, pick lead. If you want them to buy something, click sale, purchase. What else? Any other questions? Yes?
How many days does it usually take for the algorithm to build momentum when you're looking at this?
At the data? Yeah, so typically Facebook wants 30 to 50 events, whatever you're optimizing for, per week to be able to optimize, get out of the learning phase. Okay, so if you're using video and you're spending $1 a day, probably 3 days, 4 days. So pretty quick if the objective is video views to figure out what they want. So yeah, so 3 to 4 days. If you're doing sales, it's gonna be longer because it costs more, things like that. You got a question?
Yeah, when you're doing these video ads, how long should they be?
My favorite question. So how long should they be? As long as they need to be. Okay, let me explain. So when you do your videos, there's no magical like 1 minute and 12 seconds or 2 minutes and 13 seconds and you'll unlock the key to success. It's typically, if it's good, it don't matter how long it is, right? How engaging are you? So you want to think you're trying to hook the viewer multiple times in your video. Do you understand what I'm saying by that? So if the video is 1 minute long and you want them to watch the full minute, you got to have plenty of ways to keep them engaged. So if you're just talking and then maybe you don't have any B-roll or you're not changing your tonality, right? You're speaking monotone, or you're not putting them through an emotional roller coaster to pay attention, or telling them I got something. You see YouTubers are pros at this. They're like, I got something I'm going to tell you, but you got to watch to the end of the video. And then they almost give it to you. And then they say, yeah, in just a few minutes, I'm going to talk about. And what they're doing is they're gaming the algorithm for watch time, right? So that they favor them more. But you could actually learn a lot from YouTubers because they're like experts at it. So however long it needs to be. Now, standard videos that I've seen that do well on Facebook, around a minute, right? Around a minute is good. 90 seconds is fine. And then if you use, I know I'm only supposed to be talking about Facebook, but if you use YouTube ads, you can have 3 to 5 minute videos. YouTube ads are very effective for if you have a long form sales pitch. So that's how long. Yeah. Anything else? I'm here.
Are YouTube ads expensive?
YouTube ads, yes and no, depending on if you're going for video views, it's typically 10 times cheaper than Facebook per 30-second view. You'll get a more engaged user on YouTube. The key is you got to know how to target. So you can target keywords like people looking up subject of like, let's say you're doing psychology, you would target the keyword psychology to make sure all of your videos show up on videos that people are watching on psychology. Or if you have, you can actually choose, like, let's say there's 5 to 7 influencers that talk about, that you would think like they have the audience I want, you can target all their videos. So every time someone watches their video, they see yours. So that's another cool tactic you can use on there. Yes, Todd.
Do you use repurpose AI?
You know what? I don't. Are you using it?
I have. I started just a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I put my videos in one location.
Okay.
And it automatically sends it out to all the other locations.
All the other platforms?
But what I'm wondering is if they claim that they strip it off so that it's like if I put it on TikTok, that when it goes to Facebook, it doesn't know that it came from TikTok.
Sure.
I don't know if I believe it.
Yeah, I would look into that. A lot of the tools too, like to get mass distribution from like one tool, sometimes the platforms will lower the reach. Like if it knows it came from another, you know what I'm saying? Like if you're using a third-party tool, they'll lower the reach because what they want you to do is to stay on it individually, right? So that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I did that with my first business, and I did TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and if I did it all on one platform and sent it out, I got no looks, likes, or anything if I did it all individually.
Yep.
I mean, and it takes a lot of time to do it, right? But my reach was tenfold what I got if I sent it out one way. So I haven't used the tool that you were using. I've used several others.
Yeah.
But I had no luck doing that.
Well, it's mostly, if you think about like high level, why they do that is because if everyone started doing that, they couldn't sell ads because then Todd wouldn't be using Facebook and I couldn't target Todd if I wanted to sell something, right? So that's them protecting their business model, which makes sense, right? Because they make all their money using ads. So so they'll deprioritize any third-party tools that you use. And if they don't in the beginning, they typically like eventually find out what tool it is and then stop it. Good question though. Good question. Anything else? We're good? We're all experts? All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate the time.